So the government of national unity has now turned one. Exactly a year ago, the government of national unity was formed with high hopes. Let's have a quick look at what we think about the government of national unity 1 year later. So, as we said, as was told to us, we had to keep this doomsday coalition out of power. Well, that's been done. In actual fact, the doomsday coalition seems to be just gently dismembering itself. Never really bought that as an excuse, but let's look at the government of national unity that was formed. The idea that the Democratic Alliance and the Freedom Front Plus and the Patriotic Alliance and all of these relatively pro-business parties were brought in, the hope was that this would have some big effect on the economy. 1 year later, we still have no economic growth. We've got worse policies. We've got higher unemployment. So you've got to give that government of national unity a massive fail on economic impact. And there's probably the big reason for that was that the year started off, the first year of the GNU, started off by the ANC implementing all of its economy-killing ideas, which they have doubled down on. Things like expropriation, things like employment equity. We know that all the way to the White House in America, the ANC has gone to defend these policies despite the economic disaster that they will yield. It looked like we were heading down a very dark place until the budget of this year, where the finance minister, Enoch Godongwana, was forced to rescind his budget proposals, largely because of the action of his GNU partners. And for a moment it looked like that was the death knell for the GNU. But it was saved. It was saved only because of a technicality. The ANC didn't want to be seen to be kicking out the DA, and the DA wouldn't go unless they were kicked out. So it created this impasse which sort of kept the marriage together because nobody wanted to leave the house. And in many ways, it was a bit of a sobering up for all parties. It was a sobering up, I think, for the ANC to understand that if they are in a coalition government, regardless of who they're in the coalition government with, they better work with their partners or else things could get messy. And what sits behind the messy? What's the big fear? It's not that the budget won't be passed. It's understanding that if there's a motion of no confidence in the president and you don't have a majority that can shoot it down, like used to happen in the days of Jacob Zuma, the ANC would be absolutely vulnerable. That show of force was vital, because let's remember that if there was a vote of no confidence tomorrow in President Cyril Ramaphosa, unless the DA voted with the ANC, and if they managed to really get on the wrong side of the DA, and the DA voted for the impeachment, so would MK, so would EFF, because I understand that would be the end of the ANC. So that was the awakening of the budget moment. Okay? So let's look at the impact. We understand that the ANC has the penny has finally dropped, that perhaps they better do something a little bit better, both on the economic front as well as the service delivery front. The question is, it feels like they understand that a little better, but they're not doing anything that actually shows it. So in other words, we've still got the mess in 7 out of the 8 metros in which the ANC are involved in running. Gauteng remains a disaster. So it's one thing to know that this is what is pissing people off. It's another thing to do something about it, and the ANC hasn't learnt that lesson. But the budget action had a different outcome, and that was that it emboldened people to actually speak up about issues like the budget and the use of money and corruption and government overspending and VAT and so on. People are emboldened, and suddenly it's not just people like me that are speaking out. Parliament has suddenly become a little bit more emboldened. The newspapers have become a little bit more emboldened. And of course, internationally, people are saying, we're not sure that you're going down the right track. So the government of national unity has kept the ANC in check, but my word, it suddenly means that somebody put that fat person on a scale and they don't like it at all. For the DA, it's been marginally good. Marginally good, and I say marginally good. Why? Because I think the biggest issue is that it's allayed the fear that the DA would bring back apartheid, which was kind of ridiculous, but it was a fear nonetheless, because they've been in power and they don't really be, it would be hard to see how they did that. But are they connecting with potential new voters? If they're doing it, it's happening very, very quietly, and it's not showing in the by-elections. So I think it's at best been marginally good for the DA. In actual fact, I think where it has been quite useful has been with the smaller parties, both inside and outside of the GNU, because there's starting to be a gulf, a big gap between the parties that are prepared to use whatever percentage of the vote they got versus those that aren't. So I'll give you the example. You've got the good party. Remember them, Patricia de Lille. Now, she's just a bootlicker of the ANC. She hasn't moved the needle 1 inch. She will disappear after this election. Whereas I think to a degree, parties like Rise Mzansi, that's on the fringes, supposed to be in the government of national unity. We're not sure what their status is, but I suppose technically they are in it. They've managed to ask a few questions, do a few things other than say how wonderful the ANC are. And it's moved the needle. So I think some of those, what we're going to see is a big separation between some of those small parties. And that can only be good for the country. All in all, a year has passed. The country is still in the doldrums, but we are carrying on, and the sun came up, and we are forever hopeful. It hasn't been a great success. It hasn't been a great disaster. But then again, I don't live in a shack, and I'm not one of the 50% that are unemployed. I think they would have a different view of this government of national unity. Thank you for joining me on the Political Insider.